Today, Kamala Harris is grilled on the border, and Mara Gay of the New York Times is very, very disturbed by American flags. Very, very scary world out there. We've got a lot coming up, and it all starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I'm Sarah Gonzalez. Today joined by Stu Burguiere, host of Stu Does America, and also Blaze media critic Rob Eno. I know it's going to confuse everyone, Stu, you being on the show not on Thursday. So, but it is Tuesday.
Tuesday, yes. Yes.
It's Tuesday.
I'm at the point in my life where I'm like, it is Monday? There's always a question mark after the day that I think it is. All right, so let's get to the headlines of the day. Kamala Harris is getting a lot of flack for her interview that she gave with Lester Holt. Now, this came after she gave a speech. You know, she's constantly giving speeches on what's going on at the border. She is, of course, the border czar, which is, as we know, a very important title, and she takes it very, very seriously. But she was in Guatemala, and she was telling illegal immigrants, it's weird. She got this like new, I guess, some new advisor who gave her this really new, bold strategy to tell the potential migrants, don't come here. It's weird. No one's ever thought of it before. Brand new strategy. Here is Kamala Harris on that.
I want to be clear to folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border. Do not come. Do not come. The United States will continue to enforce our laws and secure our border. There are legal methods by which migration can and should occur. But we, as one of our priorities, will discourage illegal migration. And I believe if you come to our border, you will be turned back.
Oh. So
let's discourage our friends, our neighbors, our family members from embarking on what is otherwise an extremely dangerous journey.
Wow. Where was that? Like, this is brilliant and bold and brand new. I've never heard of such a strategy before. Tell people not to come, maybe get rid of the magnets in place so that people won't be encouraged to cross your border and break the law. Where is she getting this bold new strategy, Stu?
Well, I mean, it's important to note that it's one side of the story, one side of the argument. The other argument, of course, comes from Kamala Harris last year when she was candidate and was saying the exact opposite. I mean,
are you saying the two are related people?
Well, they've never been in the same room together, as far as I know. It's interesting because, of course, this is the right approach, right? Yeah. It's annoying that they're landing on the right approach in June, and none of their other activities are consistent with this approach.
Right.
I mean, it is good. It's a good idea to go down to Guatemala and make speeches and say, don't come. That's a really good idea. They should have billboards all over the place down there. Just be like, don't
Spanish, by
turn
the way.
Around, wrong way. Like also, yes,
no
exactly. You're right. In Spanish, it should be part of the strategy. It should not be, ripping apart the things that were actually working on the border, which of course they did, which caused this crisis in the first place. I think we're at 350,000 people in 2 months, which is way above anything that is even close to normal. It's still a crisis. It's still ongoing. And look, if it wasn't a crisis, there's no freaking way Kamala Harris is in Guatemala saying these things. You can tell how terrified they are by this. They know this is going this badly. They've been pressured into this, and now they have no other thing to do other than essentially sound like Donald Trump. Okay. Go down there and act like you're Donald Trump, which is, I mean, it's got to feel good for the former president.
Yeah, that's true. Rob, I want to get your thoughts on this before I go to the NBC News interview with Lester Holt, because that's amazing.
I, for one, am shocked that our vice president is this racist.
I'm
absolutely shocked.
That's a great point.
That she
xenophobic?
would echo the xenophobic, racist rhetoric of Donald John Trump.
I don't see her in Canada saying this.
I know. Oh. Well, that's because Trudeau probably wouldn't let her in, because, I mean, they're still afraid of COVID. So
they won't even let the Blue Jays in. They're their friggin' team.
Exactly. You can't even go to Canada. But no, it's just, they created the crisis. They said, come on down, we'll let y'all in. And of course, the fact checkers said, well, they really didn't say, no, they did. I mean, that's what the President of the United States said before he took office, was basically, oh, we're going to have an open door. And now they won't admit that that's why there's a crisis. But now they're like, no, don't come. Don't come. Just, it's absolutely, utterly just amazing.
Yeah, it is funny.
It's like we're in a bizarro world.
Well, and you mentioned the fact check, because I mean, I know that they would say like, well, I mean, he said, look, don't come, but I'm just saying if you're already here, you're going to get a bunch of free stuff. It's like, but that's telling them to come.
Right, and
Biden mostly false.
Right, exactly.
False.
Exactly.
Biden even outlined the time period, which was the first 100 days. Remember, he said basically, after 100 days, we're going to start looking at this really closely, which indicates to everyone, better get here fast. So, you know, look, I'm not surprised they had to fall back on this, because this is normal human behavior. It's incentives, right? You have to tell them directly, like this little game they're playing, in which they act like we're going to welcome everyone, and knowing all the problems, works in a campaign because it's not reality. Like you can say, oh, we're just going to be nice to people, and it sounds fantastic. Everyone wants to be nice to people. But when you're hit in the face with reality, you have a country you need to manage. You have borders that are part of that country. If you don't have borders, as Donald Trump always used to say, you don't have a country. And they're finding out that is reality. Yeah.
By the way, while we're on the topic of Guatemala, I do want to get to the Guatemalan protesters who greeted our dear Vice President Kamala Harris with signs telling her to go home. And it says, Kamala, Trump won. Kamala, mind your own business. It's amazing. Kamala, not welcome. Well, listen to this. Stop financing criminal groups that force many to migrate. So she was, let's see, the Guatemalan president said the message changed to, we're going to reunite families, we're going to reunite children. The very next day, the Coyotes were here organizing groups of children to take them to the United States. We asked the United States government to send more of a clear message to prevent more people from leaving, because they're saying the Coyotes have taken over and are causing havoc in our towns. So it's nice to know that we're not the only ones here in America who can't stand Vice President Harris. By the way, I would just like to say I was reading the sign that said that Trump won. That was not my assertion to the benevolent overlords at YouTube. That was just me reading a sign from Guatemala. So if you have a problem with that, you can take it up with Guatemala.
Which they won't do because, unlike you, they're Hispanic.
My favorite was the grammatical correctness of that sign with the comma. It like come out, comma.
Well, they must have used Google Translate. So Lester Holt was, it's interesting, the shocking acts of journalism that are just kind of popping up in the mainstream media. I think it's really honestly by accident, because everyone is kind of trying to be top dog in this new administration, where they're not all working to get the president ousted. But there was Lester Holt of NBC News, who was talking to border czar herself, as I mentioned earlier, Kamala Harris, talking about the border, asking her why she hadn't visited. This this whole entire exchange is just very bizarre. Watch.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making. I'm not discounting the importance of the border.
Well, I mentioned it because I know Republicans have certainly come at you on this, but Democratic Congressman Cuellar has a border district, has said to you and the president, come. You need to see this.
Listen, I care about what's happening at the border.
I don't think she was prepared for that. I do not think she was expecting that. I haven't been to Europe either. Oh, man, that's bad.
Did someone put you in charge of Europe?
Exactly.
I don't remember that.
Well, you know that European border that we have here in America.
That's a big border. It's a lot of water on that border. It's a lot of water. It's funny because you made the perfect point there, Sarah. How on earth could she not be prepared for that question? It should be the only question she was actually prepared for. She seemed to be shocked by it. Yeah. And I guess that's the benefit of being on the left, right? Like you don't get those tough questions. I mean, Lester Holt is not the worst, guy in journalism. There are a lot worse than Lester Holt, and he asks just an honest question. And honestly, I don't want to overstate Lester Holt's role here. He gives a very basic question and doesn't really even press that hard, and then kind of gives her the out afterward. But even that she's not prepared for, which is remarkable. I mean, she's remarkably bad at this.
Yeah. I mean, she hasn't been to the border because then she owns the border. I mean, we all know why she hasn't been to the border, because if she goes to the border to try and fix the border, which she won't fix, she then has been to the border and she's been unable to do it. I mean, so if you just say, like, I'm just going to go to, like, the point of the problem. I'm going to go to, it all starts in Guatemala, so you know what? I'm going to go to Patagonia. It starts as far south as I can go.
Well, it is interesting, too, because she's giving these conflicting messages, at least to the American people, because she's telling us that these people have no choice but to come over there, to come over here because of climate change. Right? I mean, she's made that speech before, but to them, she's saying, don't come. So to her own people, wouldn't that be just horribly, like, uncompassionate for you to do to people who have no choice because of climate change to migrate over to the United States? Isn't that what she tells us?
You're leaving these people to be weathered to death down in South America.
Yes.
Is she saying that South America, that Central America is too hot and it's too close to the equator? And therefore they have to move because it's too hot?
I mean,
is that what we're going with?
One would gather that is what she's going with. I've tried to make sense of it too. I mean, you've heard it from her, you've heard it from Nancy Pelosi. That's their new talking point. It's like, well, you just have to understand that they're coming because of the climate change and also Trump, which both happen to be the two reasons that they use for literally everything.
Yeah, and I'll say too, like what you point out, like I want to go to the source of the problem, is an actual answer, right? Like if you just come up with that, if you just came up with the answer that Rob Eno came up with at the top of his head, you're going to be doing a hell of a lot better than the vice president, right? Yeah. That's what's amazing here. It's like, if you want to say like, look, we've been going to the border is a photo op, right? I wanted to go to the place where this is starting. The problem with this is you're embracing our philosophy. And she had to do that once already in a speech. I don't think she wants to do it again. But the point is you go down there and you tell them, don't come, get out. It is not appropriate for you to come here and try to break our laws. Stop it. That is what you had to say. She gave a version of that. But to this audience, she has to act like we're going to be nice to everybody, and everyone's here because of climate change and because of the policies of the Trump administration or something. There's no way to make it coherent because it's not coherent.
Yeah, that's weird, Rob.
You know how bad this is for them, right? I mean, for the first time in generations, a Democrat just won the mayorship of McAllen, Texas, which is on the border, and I think in Republican,
yeah.
Sorry, Democrat lost. So Republican just won. 95% Hispanic city. I was down there over Thanksgiving weekend near the border, and Henry Cuellar, I think that's his district. So, like, they just don't understand. And I think Trump won some of those areas for, like, the first time, which offset, us crazy people in Dallas and in Tarrant that decided that they were crazy.
Because, my family, I come from a family of immigrants, some from Mexico, some from Spain. And it just boggles my mind how people don't get this. Every Hispanic family is not going to be like, yeah, definitely bring them over. I waited in line and did it the right way. My family waited for years and years, and it took a ton of money for us to get here. Oh, but definitely let them cut in front of all the law-abiding people. Like, that's not a coherent argument to me. So it's interesting to see that play out. Turns out maybe I'm not the only one who feels that way. I don't know. We've got more to come. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Bonner, which I brought to the table and then promptly realized I didn't have a wine opener. And then I got very sad.
You strike me as a person who always has a wine opener.
So it's funny you say that. I do carry one in my purse, and I do carry one in my suitcase. But I just didn't bring my purse today.
Oh.
So I would have had it, which was why I was like, sweet, I'm going to have, and then I forgot.
And it's conveniently single serving size.
How did you? Gosh, you know me so well. So over at cowgirlwine2021.com, they have these. They have Malbecs, and they have got these amazing wines because they have the grapes that are grown at like 9,000 feet in Argentina, and it turns out those grapes make a really, really amazing, smooth wine that you are going to want to drink with your medium rare steak. Yes, only medium rare. We will accept no other way of cooking steak. Now, impossible meat, I don't know. You'd have to go to stew for that. But you got to try the wine. So you got to go to cowgirlwine2021.com. They just got another shipment of these wines in. They keep disappearing off the shelves. So you got to go there. Don't sleep on it. You will get 50% off the wine, 50% off of the shipping. You don't need a promo code. You only have to go to cowgirlwine2021.com. It is cowgirlwine2021.com. The New York Times editorial board member Mara Gay speaking to Mika Brzezinski on Morning Joe, talking about Trump voters, that she was out. Where was she? They were talking about the events of January 6th, and she was really, honestly, you know, you can say what you want about these gun-toting Americans. You can say what you want about the things that Americans do, but is there anything more disturbing, gentlemen, than dozens of American flags? Watch.
The reality is here that we have a large percentage of the American population. I don't know how big it is, but we have tens of millions of Trump voters who continue to believe that their rights as citizens are under threat by simple virtue of having to share the democracy with others.
Yes.
I think as long as they see Americanness as the same as one with whiteness, this is going to continue. We have to figure out how to get every American a place at the table in this democracy, but how to separate Americanness, America, from whiteness. Until we can confront that and talk about that, this is really going to continue. I was on Long Island this weekend visiting a really dear friend, and I was really disturbed. I saw, dozens and dozens of pickup trucks with explicatives against Joe Biden on the back of them, Trump flags, and some cases just dozens of American flags, which is also just disturbing, because essentially the message was clear. It was, this is my country. This is not your country. I own this.
I mean, I was not swayed by her until she said she saw explicatives. And then I was like, whoa, that is too far.
I just want to say that the good people of Guatemala understand American grammar better than the American talk show host person.
That's a great point.
There was a lot to unpack.
There was
on
a lot.
that one.
Okay, so let's start with democracy.
Yeah, this
She
is not a
mentioned
democracy.
that
This is a
several
republic.
times.
It's a constitutional republic
That's
that has elements of democracy within it, important elements of democracy. I know of no one who thinks the way she thinks. I now, maybe Richard Spencer or David Duke, I don't hang out with them, so I don't know them. But I will say, I know I've never in my life met a person who thinks the way that she's describing.
That Americanness is whiteness.
Americanness and whiteness. I don't know anyone who thinks that way. No one does.
No.
Now, I mean, I guess, again, maybe David Duke does, but I don't know of anyone like that. It's just such a completely silly idea, and it's like, let's just take for a second how ridiculous her point is, because I think we could do a whole show on how dumb her point is. Can we just step back and say, we've had this conversation. We don't need to start a conversation about white supremacy. It's constant. It's all they talk about all the time on MSNBC. It's like the only topic of discussion that's allowed. And then every single time they talk about it, they say, we need to have a conversation about that. What the hell is this? If this is not at least a conversation about white supremacy, what the hell is it? It's all anyone ever seems to think about. Yet I don't see it represented. I don't see, the idea that someone had an American flag on their truck is not white supremacy. It's not what it means.
It's disturbing, though.
Stu, the American flag is based upon the family crest of the Washington family, if you've seen, with the stars and the bars. And Washington, as you know, held slaves.
There we go. We solved it.
Hence, it's white supremacy.
Well, it's just like, it's almost as if they all forgot when they talk about, they say stuff like the American flag, and when people think of America, the American is synonymous with whiteness. It's like, who was the president before Donald Trump? Am I the only one who remembers
Who's
that?
the vice president now?
Right. Am I the only one who remembers that? Like, we're a nation that is so synonymous with whiteness that, like, we've already had a black president. We have, well, she identifies as, like, everything, so I don't even know.
She's broken every barrier. Yeah. Like, it's not really unfortunate for any other woman.
Our first South Asian African.
South Asian, yeah. She had, like, everyone.
Yeah. But it's like, we elevate everyone of all colors, shapes, and sizes to the highest positions in our whole country.
Arguably the most prominent elected Republican right now is Tim Scott.
Yeah.
I mean, who was massively influential.
Uncle Tim, you mean?
Uncle Tim.
Yeah.
Uncle Tim, that's right.
He doesn't count to them.
I guess he doesn't count because, again, he's conservative. I don't know. I mean, it's basically a mental disorder. Right? To sit here and think about race this much. Yeah. The whole point of this country was that we were going to come together and not think about this. It wasn't going to be the focus. It's all anyone thinks about. It's incredible. I really did think we were beyond this idiotic period where we apply the same amount of attention to race as KKK members did. We should be thinking less about race, not more about it. And we're going back, like we dropped a lot of that nonsense a long time ago, and for whatever reason, we're ramping it back up. We're just blaming different colors for the problems. Mm-hmm. That's insanity. It should stop, and yet there's an industry and several TV networks designed to further it.
Yeah. Okay, I want to get to this particular topic before we have to go to break. The Department of Justice just announced yesterday that their FBI agents have recovered $2.3 million of the $4.4 million that the Colonial Pipeline paid to the ransomware criminal group DarkSide, but they paid it in crypto. They paid this in cryptocurrency. And for those of you who are not familiar, it's like the hackers shut down their entire, like they could not do anything. It was total devastation. In some areas, they were out of gas. It was crazy. But a federal judge signed off on the warrant for federal officials to seize the ransom, and officials recovered 63.7 Bitcoin of the total 75 Bitcoin. I just find this so fascinating because I thought that the whole point of Bitcoin was that, or cryptocurrency was that it was not trackable. You couldn't figure these things out. So it's very interesting.
Would you believe that the New York Times got it wrong?
Oh.
So the New York Times made it seem like they hacked the Bitcoin, and that's how they got it. Jordan
they just find the key or whatever?
No. So Jordan Schachtel, who used to work with us at Blaze Media, he still reports on national security things. He looked at the actual warrant.
Yeah, what was it?
What happened is the idiots from Russia left their Bitcoin in a wallet in Northern California, so they were able to seize the wallet. Like, I don't even know if they've gotten into the money, but they physically have the wallet. It's not, and they still have not cracked, as far as we know, they've not cracked the code because it's pretty much an unhackable code to get that private key. There's two keys with Bitcoin. There's a public key. So if you need to send me Bitcoin, I give you my public key and you send me your Bitcoin, right? So they were able to track where the Bitcoin was based on the public key, but they didn't have the private key, and they didn't hack the private key, and they made it seem, and the media made it seem like they hacked the private key, and everybody's crypto went down by like 35% overnight.
Yeah.
But that's not what happened.
No, and I will say too, Bitcoin is actually not, every transaction is public, right? So it's not traceable in that, like, you don't know who's associated with which address, but they can track exactly where that money goes. It's all in a public ledger. If you want privacy, you gotta go to Zcash or Monero or some of these other privacy coins. One thing that I think is really interesting about this story, though, is that there is this sort of dance that goes on. It's similar to what's going on, what would normally go on in like a mob movie, right? Yeah. Where you come in and you're saying, I'm gonna give you some protection, and you're gonna be a protection. It's a protection payment. And you know that if you don't pay the protection payment, it's kind of like they're the ones that are gonna be causing the chaos, right? But there's a sort of gentleman's arrangement. Certainly in the 80s in New York, there's Chicago with Al Capone, those things always existed. The same sort of thing existed between hackers and businesses. Yes, they would come in and take your stuff, but this weird arrangement has existed for a couple of years now where they actually free your data when you make the payments, right? There was this sort of quote-unquote gentleman's agreement among criminals where they would say, look, we're gonna freeze your data. When you give us the $1 million, we're going to unlock the data, and it's gonna be a hell of a lot cheaper. There was one example from Baltimore a couple of years ago where they demanded a $75,000 payment, and they decided not to pay it. It was the city of Baltimore. To rebuild everything they lost, it cost them $18 million. So there was like $75,000 or $18 million.
Right.
So they decided to pay the $75,000. Now what we've just done, and the government, Biden administration came out and publicly put it in their face. If that payment's made and you release the data, we might just take it back. And so I'm not saying that we're like, hey, we should make deals with criminals, but this is going to cause chaos. Some of these criminal organizations are going to say, you know what? Why would we trust your payments this time?
Right.
You know what? We're going to hold on to the data for a year and see if you try to take it back. And if you don't, then we'll let your data go.
Well, it is interesting because I feel like there were conflicting messages coming from, I mean, I guess the intelligence community versus Joe Biden and his administration, because Jen Psaki was like, oh, that's up to them. We don't get involved in private sector. And so what do you do if you're the private sector entity that's gotten hacked? You're like, okay, I guess I'm not getting help. I guess I need to figure this out. Meanwhile, the FBI was like, yeah, we definitely discourage you guys like making arrangements with these people. We don't think you should do it. It's like, but the president just said they're not going to do anything for me.
Yeah.
It's really frustrating, I'm sure, for the industries who have been hit. All right, well, we've got more to come. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Home Title Lock. So if you are not familiar with home title theft, you know, you could have one of those Russian hacking companies come in and do this to you. They get on the dark web and they find the bunch of seedy people who you don't want to associate with have put a bunch of people's homes titles on the dark web, places like that where people can. Jason Buttrell was on here and he said people could buy your title for like $40. So that's all it's worth to these criminals, but it's everything to you because you have your retirement nest egg. All of the equity that you built in your house could be gone like that whenever they forge your signature and then file a quitclaim deed and make themselves the new owner of your house. You can't let it happen to you, and you may be thinking that, you know, your banking program might protect you or an identity theft program that you're involved in might protect you. No, that is not so. You do not want to be caught without Home Title Lock. Okay, you got to go to HometitleLock.com, register your address. It's the only way you can find out if you are already a victim. You can sign up for 30 free days of protection by using promo code RADIO. Don't know why it's promo code RADIO? Just go with me here. Use promo code RADIO at HometitleLock.com for 30 free days of protection. That is HometitleLock.com. Washington State has added a new incentive for its citizens to get vaccinated. Now, it's interesting when I read this because we've seen all sorts of, you know, get a free, like, you had Bill de Blasio like, wow, that's so delicious, which is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life. You have Krispy Kreme.
Made me anti-vaccine.
Thank you.
Yes, it was
finally.
Yes,
Who knew that's what it would take? You've got Krispy Kreme, who was like, we're going to get free donuts to everyone who gets vaccinated. You have all of these, you know, they have a lottery.
The beer in a shot thing where they gave you a free beer and if you get the shot. That was
West Virginia, West Virginia was giving you a free
gun, right? Which I was like, okay, I'm almost there, but not. But you've seen all of these different incentives, which again is weird because I feel like if you really need the vaccine because it's so deadly, you don't need the extra incentive to get it. But what do I know? The Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board is offering pot shops the opportunity to host COVID-19 vaccination clinics at their stores and give a free joint to customers who get vaccinated. This is, of course, you know, in the midst of, they were talking about the possibility of a $1 million lottery as well. But for now, they will offer free marijuana joints with vaccinations. I hate everything. Gentlemen.
Is like Afro Man doing the commercial? I was going to get a vaccine, but then I got high.
Well, no, because they need you to get the vaccine first.
Oh, there you go,
they need you to get the vaccine
that is
first.
Like, it's the greatest thing. I mean, they are going to get, they're going to be at like 70% vaccination rate by like the end of this week if they're giving out the J&J, because like is the state gonna?
Oh my gosh, that's a great name, J&J. You get the Johnson & Johnson and a joint, J&J. That's fantastic.
It's the Mary J.
That's just
I hate it.
It's such a good name. It's so good. No, you're right, because I mean, maybe we could just get. I think they should they're going to put a needle in each arm. One will be the vaccine, the other will be heroin, and just see what happens. Maybe a lot of people will show up to get the vaccine.
Like, is this really moving the needle for people? Because if it is, I want these people out. I want them all out.
Yeah,
I want them all out.
It's interesting because I think some of these things have been successful, and what they're finding is there's a group of people. There's people who really like the vaccine. Like, I'm Mr. Pro-vaccine. Sarah, maybe not as big a fan. It's not going to move me or you, right? There's a certain amount of people who just don't go to the doctors that much.
Well, I was thinking I wanted to get high tomorrow. So
right, and like maybe they smoke pot occasionally. Also, like they talk about like there's a group of like people who never got any time off because these aren't people who are like working at home on Zoom calls. These are people who are like in essential jobs, who are like borderline whether they can take days off. And they think that's where it helps a little bit, right? Like they give these little incentives, and people are like, screw it, I was going to get it anyway, I'll show up and get it. I'm not as offended, maybe, by some of this stuff. I will say, marijuana is a federal crime. Like, it is still a freaking crime. And the fact that a state would sit here and say, yes, not only are we allowing this to go on in our state and not going to go after the people doing it when it's a federal crime, but in addition, we're going to encourage it and use it as part of a vaccine giveaway is remarkable. It's as if the left, who has constantly told us, by the way, that the federal laws are so much more important than state and local laws, have totally reversed themselves in this situation. It's really remarkable.
I mean, to be honest, you probably committed 7 federal felonies on your way to work this morning, as I did and as you did, because there's so many.
Not me.
So
I'm perfect. I don't commit any crimes.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. A little known fact about me.
Wow.
Okay, so, but there was the one, what was it, Anheuser-Busch, that said that they would do free beer, but only if we reached 70%.
I like that.
Vaccination rate.
So, like, we all get it? Everybody in the country gets a free beer?
You have to enter in your email. So if everyone in the country goes in and enters their email, then I guess.
That is can we do that at the Blaze to get people to sign up for our email address? Program.
Because
that's something else I do.
I was like, absolutely not.
No, we're just gonna we will give out free something.
Okay,
if we get 70%.
So, but let's talk about. You touched on it. I think it was off air, Rob. The new Cleveland Clinic study that came out. I saw Rand Paul tweeting about this as well. But he said that natural immunity is
long-term natural immunity and better than
at least as good as, if not better
than vaccine.
Than vaccine-induced immunity, which is only like. I don't know, the way it's always been.
I am shocked that basic biology and virology actually work for this, wait a second, wait for it, novel virus. Because that's like, well, this one was different because it was novel.
Right.
Like literally, when you talk to people that aren't like conservative about this thing, they're like, well, we never had this novel virus before. Like, that's what they always, because the media made it into this thing.
Yeah, but it's still a virus.
I mean, I'm sort of conspiracy theory-ish, but I'm not really. Well, maybe I am. But I'm at the point now.
Don't be enough to get us kicked off YouTube.
I know, but I'm at the point where it seems as though this might have been like an organized thing to maybe not have a president reelected. I'm not saying it was Mark Zuckerberg or Ajit Pai or any of those people, but
it would have been odd, I will say. Like, why was India killing 1 million of its own citizens so that Donald Trump would not be? They love Donald. They
do love Donald Trump.
The Indian people like Donald Trump more than Melania Trump likes Donald Trump. Like,
but it wasn't India. It was China.
No, I know, but India.
I mean, it would have been if I'm in on
China
this
and India are
theory.
like mortal enemies, and they don't like the only reason China and India don't fight is
saying.
because there's like huge Himalayan mountains in the middle of the way.
Look, this show's obviously not even going to be on YouTube in 5 minutes. We can say whatever we want now. But I mean, like I think it's like I got, as you know, I'm a COVID-19 survivor.
You are. Yes.
Thank you, a COVID survivor.
Thank you.
You are a hero.
I am a hero. A hero is probably the right word. I wasn't going to say it, but you guys said it. Fine, that's a good description. And it was really frustrating to go through this period when you've had it and you have natural immunity, at least at some level, and you can't do anything. Like, there's no reason for me to be wearing a mask or my wife to be wearing a mask after that. I mean, even if you believe in masks completely, there was no reason for it.
Right.
Now you have a situation where, there's no reason to believe. We have people who got, millions of people who got coronavirus in March and February and April. When those people start getting reinfected, it may happen, right? If those people start getting reinfected, you could start saying, okay, this looks like the limit of whatever natural immunity that we have. Not every, as we know, with the flu and all sorts of different things, your immunity doesn't last forever with everything. it may very well run out. But we're going to have a really good ramp on this one. We're going to see when those first people start getting reinfected again. Maybe that's the time you think about it. It's been very overblown, I think, on the need. It's actually wasteful in many ways for people who got it to get vaccinated again. There's multiple studies out here on this. Some of them say that they think that the best case scenario is getting it naturally and getting one shot of the vaccine. That might last, they think, maybe that might be lifetime immunity, they think. But again, they don't know. I don't know. It is like new enough to not know, right? So we're going to see what happens with this. But we're at that point now where we have enough weapons in this battle. Like I was out this weekend and it's just back to normal around here. I don't know where you are I still see people I follow on Twitter being like, I finally saw someone without a mask in a grocery store. It's like, that is like a bizarro world to me right now. We are just back to normal with the exception of a few employees here and there who are still in masks as a store policy.
Did you see that Ami Horowitz video? Where he went to New York, and so Ami Horowitz works for the Daily Wire.
Oh, yeah.
It's horrifying, and they're like, I don't feel privileged enough to not wear a mask.
Yeah.
That's dumb.
It's like, it's become a religion.
Yes.
The masks are talismans
to
the COVID religion, with St. Fauci of the Potomac as the head of the religion.
That's a pretty good analogy. All right, we've got more to come. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Built Bar. So if you are looking for a snack that is going to taste like you're cheating on your diet, but it's not going to expand your waistline, you've got to try Built Bar. They are protein bars, so they are high in protein. They are high in fiber. They are low in calories and carbs, and they are all covered in 100% chocolate. So they are delicious. They have a ton of different flavors. They've got caramel brownie. They've got cookies and cream. They've got raspberry. I love the fruit flavors. And by the way, if they have any white chocolate on sale whenever you go on the website to order, you got to snag one of those too, because the white chocolate is amazing. I know Stu's sitting through here like, I hear about this all the damn time when I go home. Why do I have to hear about this at work too?
Whole shelf of my fridge always dedicated to Built Bars. My wife, all she eats, I feel like, are Built Bars.
Same.
Constantly. All the new flavors. Always a new delivery at the door. It's all the time.
It's so good. You got to try it. You can go to BuiltBar.com. Use promo code News15. Save 15% off of your next order. I have been loving seeing all of your pictures of all your shipments when they're coming in. Keep them coming. You got to go to BuiltBar.com. Promo code News15. Nickelodeon, yes, I am talking about the children's network Nickelodeon, debuted a video over the weekend featuring drag queen Nina West explaining the colors of the LGBTQ pride flag. This is, of course, the latest in a series of materials that are aimed at explaining Pride Month to Nickelodeon viewers, most of whom I would assume are children. If you're not a child and you're watching Nickelodeon, I think we've got a whole other host of problems to get into with you, unless you have children. But so in this video, she goes through the color of each color of the flag, explains the more recent additions of pink, white, light blue, black, and brown stripes meant to signify solidarity with transgender rights and Black Lives Matter movements. And this is on Nickelodeon's YouTube. And it's, of course, is titled Drag Queen Nina West Performs an Original Song About the Meaning of the Rainbow Pride Flag. June is Pride Month, so let's celebrate by lifting up voices in the LGBTQIA+ community. This is incredible. This is truly incredible. And I think last week we discussed the Blue's Clues. It was like Blue's Clues and You, which is the new reboot of Blue's Clues. They also had a video out with the guy and the damn dog, and they're just like,
same like kind of weird guy that really over enunciates, or is this a totally new
Steve, I think it's a different. It's not Steve.
It's a new guy.
Like Steve would never do that.
He wouldn't do that to us.
He wouldn't.
No, Steve would never have done that to us.
He was a good dog owner.
He was a good dog. Look, this is everywhere. It's everywhere.
It's incredible.
And I just don't there aren't months where we celebrate straight sex.
Well, and that's what I'm wondering is like, how would the other community be if Rob, let me ask you this. How would LGBTQIA++, I don't know, whatever. How would that community be if we were like heterosexual Pride Month? Yes, we're going to tell all of our kids about how we have sex with the opposite sex and all how would that even fly with anyone?
I would like to think that they're allies.
Okay, sorry.
But no, you're absolutely right. It's just absolutely nuts how big it's gotten. And it's overboard, and it's like the pink ribbon during Breast Cancer Awareness Month. None of these companies actually care.
Yeah, but
they just know that if they throw a pink ribbon on it, or they throw a bunch of colors of the rainbow on their logo, that they'll be able to sell more units.
But see,
they don't care.
But I think that this is more devious than that, because this is geared towards our children, and I don't care what kind of, LGBTQ, heterosexual, whatever. I don't want you talking about anything that's going to sexualize my child.
Yeah, I don't know why this is necessary. I mean, it's necessary seemingly all over the place. I mean, we're seeing it from Burger King today. Got into a big dust-up with Chick-fil-A.
Oh, I'm going to go get Chick-fil-A tonight because of it.
Super mega judgy over, I guess, being closed on Sundays, which is evil.
Right.
Go
out and buy your Chick-fil-A today, guys.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever needed an excuse to go to Chick-fil-A, which you probably didn't if you're an American, it's everywhere, and it's like, here's the thing, I'm aware of it already. I already knew about gay people. I knew about breast cancer, and I knew about gay people. I knew about that too.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know, are there a lot of people who are like, whoa, wait, what? Wait, hold on. I mean, I guess when you get down the list to 2 and plus and I and A, maybe people don't know.
ZVBR.
It is interesting because they have deviated a lot from just like 2 people of the same sex love each other.
Yeah.
Right? Now it's like 2 people of the same sex love each other, but also men can be women and women can be men. Like, wait, what?
And that's early. I mean, that's on the 4th letter. I mean, there's like 9 letters, and now they've added just colors. Like, I mean, like brown and black, and like as if now race is. And like, this is what it always comes back to. Go to any one of these little movements. Yeah. You know what? There's plenty of people who are like, you know what? I'm treated unfairly because I'm gay or whatever. And that is there have been times when that has been incredibly legitimate. I know the people that I'm friends with who are gay do not feel like that's reality in America right now, but maybe they're the privileged ones. It's possible. But like, what is always the answer here? Always vote for Democrats. Always is the answer. It's the only answer because it's the only thing it's actually about. Vote for Democrats. I mean, go back to when the NBA was like, oh, Black Lives Matter. We got to walk off the court. We can't play the basketball. We can't do the dribbling anymore because too many people are getting shot. What can we do? What if we open up the arenas for voting? Oh, that's fine. Let's get back on the court. It has nothing to do with Black lives. It's got nothing to do with gay rights. It's all about voting for Democrats.
Yeah. Real quick, last word.
I was just going to say, and what's interesting to me is she said that the colors all stand for something. Star Trek Online, it's like a multiplayer online game. They put out like we support the LGBT community, and they have like all the different flags, but they didn't have the specific one for gay people or lesbians. So they got in trouble. So the guy that like was their social media thing had to put his name on it and say that he was sorry for not including everybody.
Oh my God.
Like that's where, but she's talking about how the flag has everything. I don't get it. I'm confused.
It's insane. Don't let your kids watch Nickelodeon without you. All right, we got to take a break.
I've heard Vulcans are super homophobic. They just do not
you know what
like
else about Nickelodeon? Nickelodeon.
Hey, big announcement for BlazeTV. Jason Whitlock has partnered with Blaze Media. Jason is launching an hour-long daily podcast and digital TV show. It is called Fearless with Jason Whitlock, and it is going to premiere, at least visual-wise, July 6th. He does have an audio podcast that is already out. It is episode 0 of Fearless with Jason Whitlock. You can find that wherever you find your podcasts. But he's doing it from Nashville, which is very exciting. We've got a newly renovated Nashville studio that now I'm not gonna be finding excuses to try to I need to do the news every once in a while with Jason Whitlock, and now we gotta go to Nashville.
Lots of news up there. Lots of news.
Lots of news. Well, the Daily Wire's up there too. I'm going to be there Monday on Candace Owens' show, taping with her. So it's like we could sell it, I think.
Totally.
We could sell it. Just do some crossover shows. I know it's what you guys want. Let us know in the comments if that's what you want. All right. Thanks, guys, for being here.